Hello, hello. We'll be back to using the mics again. Alright, so obviously, first of all, glad to see everyone's here. Some announcements. We have a hack challenge coming up soon, so think about some feasible ideas on what apps you want to create. The general gist of how the hack challenge will work is, what's it called? You and other members within, you will coordinate with other, other students in our courses, such as backend, iOS, design, to create a team. I believe we will be creating teams for you guys, and then you guys as a team will create products for the actual challenge. So hopefully it is a good experience for you guys to actually engage in full stack building of actual products. So you're not just actually building on the front end, you actually have to care about the design as well as the back end, and just working on a team. And it's generally a very fun process. So we're very excited for that. Other than that, homework 5 is due on the 30th. So hopefully you guys are working on that. And we got our attendance one, as always. That everyone has gone in the attendance home. So today, as always, we'll be going over a simple overview on what we've done, and then we will go into a kind of recitation where you guys hopefully will follow along and build some things. So, what is a fragment? Okay, so fragments are this kind of thing that are similar to activities. Fragments are just a portion of the screen, while an activity is the entire screen. And what we want is to use fragments to be able to seamlessly maneuver between different aspects of our screen around without actually changing the entire screen. Say, for example, we only want to change a portion of it. Well, this is why we use fragments, because we don't actually want to re-render the entire screen all the time whenever we change a small aspect of our app, which consumes obviously a lot of power, and we don't want our apps to lag or a lot of processing power. And this is the reason why we use fragments. Also, it allows us to be a lot more granular when it comes to actually building our apps. We don't have to have one screen for every minute change. We can have very tiny changes within the fragments that can be more customizable, allowing us to be more granular and just be more flexible with the way we build out our apps. So there are some corrections from the lectures. So there are multiple types of views that can be contained, that can contain a fragment, not just the fragment container view. As we previously showed last demo, we used the constraint layout. And in fact, the frame layout is the recommended container for fragments, not frame container view. Frame container view is more limited and is intended to be used when a fragment will not change programmatically. So frame layout is in general more flexible. Next, let's get back on the topic of actually using frames. This is once again the code for fragments. These are two examples of transactions. So what is a transaction? Well, a transaction is what we do whenever we change a portion or something about the fragment. Here we have, these are just examples of design. So the first one is, the first one is actually adding a fragment into a container, while the second one is replacing the current fragment with a new one. Just a reminder, this is how we actually create a fragment. We go to the File, New, Fragments, and this will create the both starter kit for the XML as well as a common file. Next, we have to go over navigation when it comes to navigating with maybe it's activities. It can also be fragments. First, we have the bottom navigation bar. This is what it looks like. There is a library that we use to actually induce this work. So all you have to do is put the icons and the text, and it will give it this general look. You may need to style it sometimes with some colors. Why do we use the bottom navigation bar? It allows the users to switch between different activities and fragments easily. It allows the user to be aware of the different screens available at the top, and allows the user to check what screen they are on currently. Next, there is the actual listener. We want to make sure that when we press a button on our bottom navigation bar, we can actually navigate through it. And so we use this on navigation item selected listener. Just a reminder that this is deprecated, so now if you paste this code in, it will give you a warning, and then you just have to click a button that says change it for on item selected listener. Otherwise, the syntax is identically the same, and all this does is make it so that when you actually press the button, it performs what is within the brackets. So here, if you press the home button, it sets the text as home. Next, we have the tab layout. Tab layouts can go anywhere, and the thing that they allow you to do that is different from the bottom navigation bar is that it allows you to swipe, right? So if you swipe left, it will actually swipe the tab over, and it also automatically transitions between fragments attached to those tabs. And much like the bottom navigation bar, the tab layout doesn't actually do anything unless you have a listener. And much like, or very similar to the syntax for bottom nav, we have this where instead of actually having the items, we have the position. So what the position represent? Well, positions 0 on the left, and then to all the way to n on the right. And if, let's just say you're on tab 0, it will carry out a bunch of fragment transactions to actually do the replacing for what fragments you can actually see on screen. So, say for example, 0 represents previous rides you had on Uber. Well, you would have to have a transaction that brought those fragments onto the screen. Now we will be going glide. So, what is glide? We recommend using glide as an image loading library for your homework 5. Right? You can find more information about it on the document or on the GitHub. And this is some of the syntax. This is just a way to actually load images quickly, as you will be loading a lot of them in your next assignment. And as for the syntax, it is quite simple. You just load it in via, what's it called, a URL. Or you can do it via, I believe you can also do it by just importing it into your Studio. And other than this little bit about image links, now we're on to the demo.
Alright, so for today's demo or discussion, I want you guys to actually go to the textbook and download the lecture demo code that we had from yesterday, for Monday. We will be building off of that today in order to create the rest of our demo. So that will be on lecture 5. Near to the top here, lecture 5 demo, that's it right here. So let me get that set up. what exactly I'd like you guys to do. So from last time, you probably remember the factorial and Fibonacci screens for fragments from for our Fibonacci and factorial calculators. But I've added another little tab here on the bottom for other. And in other, you'll have a little tab layout that'll let you select between a couple of different other operations, namely addition, subtraction, and multiplication. And right now, they don't really do anything. The tab layout is just kind of there as sort of just nominally, doesn't actually do anything, there's no listener. And so what I want you guys to do is to have these actually show some information to the user about what these operations do and how they work. And the sort of code base for this is that other fragment, the fragment that you see here on the top of your screen, if you go to the other tab, is a tab layout and a fragment container. Currently, this is a fragment container view. Once you guys get into this, I actually recommend deleting this and swapping it out for a frame layout, since frame layouts are, as was stated in the slides, the more preferred layout over is the more preferred way of containing a fragment over a fragment container view. Fragment container view essentially is intended for when you are displaying one fragment and having that fragment be static through pretty much your entire code. But frame layout is more flexible in that you can actually programmatically change which fragment can go into that frame layout. So I can swap it for another fragment if ever necessary. Fragment container view technically supports it, but it's kind of buggy at times, and I ran into some issues trying to use fragment container view when making this demo. So heavily recommend using frame layout instead for a fragment container. Okay, but has everybody gotten that onto their computers? Loaded it up. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay, got one thumbs up. That's good enough. Okay, well basically, this is of course the discussion, so I'll have you guys be pretty much working on this at your own pace, but pretty much what the code base should look like anyways, is you have this fragment container. I forgot to put an ID here, I'll just call it fragment container layout. And inside your other fragment, this is basically the entire screen here. This is actually a fragment that contains a fragment, if you will. The other fragment is itself a fragment that is in main activity. If I can pull up that XML. So this is a fragment container, and if I were to click on the other screen, it would contain other fragment, which itself contains a fragment. And this fragment right now is just the other operations fragment, which just says here's some information, and it doesn't actually change at all based off of what tab you're pressing. But what I want eventually is to say be able to click these other tabs and have it display other fragments. And well, right now, because I switched out the layout, it doesn't have the default value for the other fragment. In fact, let me just put that back right now. So to quickly get you guys started onto how exactly we may be able to do this, I will quickly be going through how to pass parameters into a fragment and the best practices for doing so. So this is in the on-create view for other fragment, and I'm going to say by default, just put in whenever I enter the other, I want to say like by default go to the addition tab. So I can say I need to get a reference to. Oh no, I actually don't need a reference to that. I just need a fragment manager, and since we're in a fragment, we can't use support fragment manager. This time we will use parent fragment manager. .begin transaction. Currently there should be nothing in there, so you can say .add. Then we use the ID for our frame layout with the fragment. So that will be currently our, or I think I named it something else in here. I think it's called information fragment. Information fragment new instance. And currently those parameters aren't really a big deal. Commit. Don't forget the commit at every transaction, and hopefully this will now make it so when I actually go into other, you can, okay, now you can actually see the default little thing there. So how do we make it so that in our other operations fragment, we can actually say, okay, if I in my addition tab, I'll display some information about addition. If I'm subtraction, I'll display something about subtraction, and so on for multiplication as well. Well, the main way we do that is with the new instance function here. So again, this new instance function is sort of the preferred way of creating a new instance over just using the constructor, the default constructor. And this is because you can pass in parameters as sort of arguments to your fragment to change things about it. In your homework, you'll see a sort of similar concept where we don't actually want to make new fragments for every single wallpaper that we're displaying to the user. We just want one fragment, and we want to be able to swap out those wallpapers within that one fragment class. So in these parameters, we will want to say, keep track of which tab we are clicking on. So we can have, say, like an index for keeping track of that. So I can say pass in as a parameter to my new instance, a sort of index, or I'll say operation index. And now every time I make a new instance of this, if I were to go back to my other fragment, I actually have to pass in an index. And so I guess my addition index will correspond to 0, so I'll just pass that as my sort of default fragment. And the way that these parameters are handled is kind of strange, admittedly, inside of Android Studio. It's not exactly clear, and so I'll try to walk you through it. So pretty much how the parameters are handled is that there's this arguments field that's pretty much accessible anywhere throughout the app that sort of communicates between a new instance and onCreate. And onCreate will take the arguments that are passed in here from new instance as a bundle, kind of like how you bundle things with an intent, and you can pull them out and actually put them inside of your proper fields. So say I wanted to put an index, or an int representing this index, I could say put int with a key. They have some example constants here, you don't have to care about those. I can just say index with my operation index. And now up here, if I wanted to get that, I could just write it get int with that same key, which is index. And I can say store this inside the field, say operation index equals, I'll just say int the default type int with the default value 0. And in my onCreate, I will pull that sort of parameter from here. Okay, and in our onCreate view, we can then use that index in order to change the information that is displayed to the user based off of which operation is being said. And of course, to do that, we will want to swap this out for a view and return this view. And here, which is what I want you guys to do, you can use view now with find view ID in order to actually add logic to this fragment. So get started with that, make it so that addition, subtraction, multiplication actually display some information about their respective operations, and instead of just here's some information. So it is the last 7 minutes or so of class, so I'll try to walk through generally how one would complete this task with tablet listeners and with parameterizing a fragment. So we first want to, if we want to actually make our tablet do anything, we need to, of course, add a listener to that. So, like always, we just say, find view ID to get our tab layout. And now we can add add on tab selected listener. And I believe what this takes in is it's sort of an object that has 3 different functions, kind of like a seek bar change listener, how that has 3 different functions. And so in order to make one of these, you have to say, make an object that implements tab layout dot on tab selected listener. And since this is an interface, you have to implement the 3 functions, so I just had the little red squiggly one in there, and Android Studio lets me implement them all very quickly, just like that. Make sure you delete the to-dos, otherwise they'll make a crash in your code. But, so now the one that we care about is on tab selected. That's the one where you actually select a new tab. And so whenever we select a new tab, we want to make a new fragment and put it in this fragment container here, which is of course the fragment container of other fragment. There we go. It's the fragment container layout, aka the frame layout that I put in there. So to do that, we need to make a transaction with our fragment manager. To do that, we'll use parent fragment manager, begin transaction. Right now there should be, oh wait, hold on, I'm in other operations. I'm not in the right place. Let me copy paste this over. Should be other fragment. Okay, yeah, sure. I'm honestly not even sure if I was compiling. That doesn't seem quite right. I think this might be using the wrong XML file. But now, anyways, going back to other fragment, in order to finish this off, we'll say dot replace with the ID of the container, which is fragment container layout, I think I called it. And we need to pass in the fragment. Now here's where we will use our parameterization. So the fragment that we want to put in here is the information fragment. So we would say information fragment dot new instance. And just because I put in the little argument here for an operation index, whenever I call new instance, I have to supply a index to that. So that will be the tab position in this case. So if I click on addition, I want 0. If I click on subtraction, I want 1, and 2 for multiplication. So that perfectly lines up with the tab position. It needs to be nullable. I'll just say the default value is 0. And so now, whenever our tab is selected, it will create a new fragment and put it in here as long as I say dot commit with the right amount of parentheses. There we go. Dot commit. So now this still won't do anything because in other operations fragment, I didn't actually tell it to do anything with this parameter. I just kind of have it here, I set it, but I didn't actually do anything. So if I wanted to say operate off of that, I can go into my onCreate view and add some logic here to change the text whenever I have a different index. So let's say I want to change the text. I, of course, have to get a reference to my text view. See what I called it, text view 3, or text view 3. So let's say we want to change our text view text depending on which index we have. So if I'm 0, then I want to say some stuff about how addition works, say for subtraction and multiplication. So we can use a little when statement here. This is basically just a switch case if you're familiar with that from other languages. So I can pass in my operation index to sort of operate on. And I can say when my operation index is 0, I'm going to evaluate to say like an addition description. So addition is the sum, and is say a binary operator that computes a sum. And I can say the same thing for subtraction. That computes a difference. And I think for multiplication. When will probably be yelling at me because I didn't have an else, so it doesn't really know that I can only pass in 0, 1, and 2 here. So just to sort of allow that to stop yelling at me, I'll just put an else statement. This should never really fire because my indexes should only really be 0, 1, 2 since I only have 3 indexes here in my tab layout. So I'll just put some placeholder text here. Okay, so now I believe that should be everything. In order to make at least the text change. Compilation error. And parentheses, get rid of that. Try that again. Leave some more gear in code, that's always good. And now whenever we click on a tab layout, we will see that the text view changes. And it's not necessarily just the text view, but rather the entire fragment is being swapped out for a different fragment of type information fragment that is specifically tailored or displaying different information for each different operator. So that's pretty much all for that task and all for today. Thank you guys for coming as always, and just to end off, a little reminder that your homework 5 is due this Sunday at 11:59 p.m. But that is all we have for you today, so have a good night, folks. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next week.
I missed the attendance here.
Oh, yes. we'll bring
Do you
that
have a link by chance, or just
Uh,
the URL?
I do. How would I send that to you? I guess.
I don't know. If you have posted it, I can just type it in.
Yeah, I guess I'll